Superman is essentially the bar that all other superheroes have to meet when talking about strength and power. But what happens when Superman outdoes himself? I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and this is the top 10 most powerful Superman variants. Before we begin though, I just want to say that Superman is actually one of those characters that I really haven't done a lot of reading up on before. So if I miss any information you wish made the list, be sure to let us know in the comments down below. I made a rhyme. Number 10. Red Sun Superman. Instead of landing in America, Red Sun Superman landed in the Soviet Union, and that allowed the Soviets to weaponize him instead of allowing Clark Kent to live the normal life he traditionally has. He received severe training that not even the original Superman underwent, as Red Sun Superman was always meant to become a weapon. This allowed him to become quite strong as he paired his severe training with his new communist sense of duty. If the training he underwent wasn't enough to prove his power though, Superman advanced the Soviet Union to almost worldwide control without resorting to war, and he virtually eliminated poverty and disease. This powerful version of Superman is a much more skilled Superman, as that's what he was raised to be, but it was his ability to eventually realize the fault in his own actions and allow the world to become a utopia that kind of puts him a cut above. I don't want to give much of this story away, but if you haven't read it, man, the ending, it'll just kind of knock your socks off. You should definitely read it. Number 9. Ultraman. Who would have thought that a Superman who is just a giant man baby would be one of the more powerful versions of the character? Anyone who has read the Crime Syndicate or Forever Evil stories would probably know this. Ultraman is the Superman of Earth 3, where strength and power are held above everything else. Because of this, the moral ideals that normally hold back Superman are completely gone for Ultraman. Like all evil Superman, he does not hold back at all. But unlike most other Supermen, Ultraman's relationship with Kryptonite is quite different. Instead of weakening the Kryptonian, Kryptonite gives him a crazy significant boost to his power when he crushes it up and inhales it. It's actually kind of terrifying, to be completely honest. Fortunately though, for the heroes of the world, he is depowered by the sun, which caused him to move the moon to block it out when he and the Crime Syndicate of America invaded the Prime DC continuity. Number 8. Calvin Ellis. Instead of Kal-El landing on a farm in Kansas, a black Kryptonian named Calvin Ellis was sent to Earth to escape his planet's destruction. Nevertheless, he didn't grow up trying to fit into society, as he instead became very ambitious. What do I mean? Well, Calvin Ellis worked hard enough to eventually become the President of the United States, giving him a position that allowed him to better protect his world both politically and physically. He still carried his role of Superman and even became a multiversal hero when he teamed up with the other versions of the character during the Infinite Frontier era. Kind of like Red Sun Superman, Calvin Ellis gained political power as well as his own incredible abilities, not to mention that he reprogrammed the alien intelligence Brainiac to help him in his duties. He's also a talented boxer, so there's that. Number 7. Electric Superman. During the 90s, to make Superman more interesting, I guess, DC decided that instead of his normal powers, they would give him Superman energy-based abilities. It instantly makes me wonder who would win in a fight between classic Supes or this guy. This Superman needed to wear a containment suit that helped him regulate his new powers. He could turn back into Clark Kent at will, but at the cost of losing the ability to actually use these new powers. This version of Superman also didn't have the traditional super strength that we'd expect. Instead, he could use energy fields to lift incredibly heavy objects, which is kind of the same as the regular Superman, but wait, there's also more. He could also split his body into two so that he could perform different tasks, he could teleport, manipulate energy, he had molecular control, and even more. But then, just as a little bit of icing on the cake, he's also immune to kryptonite attacks and red solar energy, which is a big boon for any alternate Superman. Number 6. Val Zod. Val Zod is sort of like the third Superman of Earth 2. He was also saved from Krypton's destruction, and after the passing of Kal-El during an invasion of Darkseid, it seemed that Kal came back stronger and unimpeded by morals, now serving Darkseid under the name Brutal. Turns out though that this was actually just a clone created by Darkseid, and he was eventually defeated by Val Zod. That's probably largely to do with the fact that Val here is a man who values intelligence over strength. He has a wealth of knowledge gained through years of Kryptonian study and is possibly smarter than all humans. Val Zod is stronger because he knows how to use the energy fields that are powered by the yellow sun. In that regard, he was powerful enough to defeat Brutal, who was said to be stronger than the original Superman himself. Number 5. All-Star Superman. All-Star Superman is actually a 12-issue series that sets itself apart from the rest of the DC universe by sort of being a standalone story. At the beginning of the tale, Superman saves an exploration mission to the sun that was sabotaged by Lex Luthor. But because of his overexposure to the yellow sun, he ends up developing new abilities such as the power to harness his bioelectric aura and pushing his normal abilities to unimaginable levels. But it wasn't just his powers that got a boost. His intellect, creativity, imagination, and curiosity also got boosted up to the point that he started getting new skills and trying out new experiments, even some that would allow a successor for himself to be created. That's important because while his abilities and mental acuity had been boosted up and he even became immune to green kryptonite, the overexposure to the sun also meant that he was starting to slowly pass away as his cells became overloaded, causing this story to get really damn emotional. Number 4. Strange Visitor Superman. Okay, before we start, technically this Superman is not canon, but he is truly one of the more powerful versions of the character. In his story, Superman outlives everything in the universe, living for literally billions and billions of years. He lives so long and gets so powerful that he gains new abilities like being able to split himself into thousands of copies that allow the hero to do what he does best throughout the universe. He outlives all the gods, cosmic entities, mortals, angels, demons, and everything. He watches countless civilizations rise and fall and learns an insane amount of skills like telepathy. He absorbs ridiculous amounts of energy, learns magic and strange sciences through all his copies, and then reabsorbs them at the end of everything. He can fly faster than the entropic waves of the end of the universe and can even manipulate the fabric of reality through sheer strength. Number 3. Quantum Superman. Alan Adam is Captain Atom, or the Quantic Superman of Earth 4. He's basically a fusion of Dr. Manhattan and Superman. Sort of. Adam obtained his powers when he was present at an experimental uranium engine that was being tested, which then exploded, turning him into a disembodied mind with no natural division in his perception of time, meaning he perceives the past and the future as a single entity. He has some insane abilities. He has the ability to change his own size, levitate, and telekinetically restructure matter, which he used to construct himself a new physical body after his original body was destroyed. Using quantum superposition, he is able to generate copies of himself. He's able to perceive and manipulate reality on at least an 8th dimensional level, and also possesses quantum sense, making him capable of knowing potentially everything. He is also responsible for merging the minds of both Superman and Ultraman in order to operate the next spot on this list. Number 2. Cosmic Armor Superman. Cosmic Armor Superman is basically a thought robot that eventually became one of the strongest versions of Superman, even though it might be one of the weirdest ones of all time, and depending on your viewpoint, you may not count him as a version of Superman at all. I respect that viewpoint, but he always comes up when people talk about the strongest versions of Superman, so here he is. This creature is somewhat strange in the sense that it isn't quite human, but it isn't quite artificial as well. The thought robot was created so that Superman and the antimatter universe Ultraman together could battle something stronger than they could ever normally face on their own. After the battle was done, the thought robot eventually merged with the entire universe's consciousness, but let me just list the powers that he has here. His powers include reactive evolution, quantum manipulation, plot manipulation, energy manipulation, reality warping, space and time manipulation, immortality, matter manipulation, fourth wall awareness, and a bunch of powers that we can't even imagine. And number 1, Superman Prime. Superman Prime, or Superman 1 million, debuted during the DC 1 million event. This version of Superman stuck around Earth till the end of the 21st century, but after all of those he grew to love passed away, he handed off the Superman mantle to his successor and then went off into space from the 22nd century all the way to the 700th century. He gained godlike abilities and could even bestow his power on others, which he did when he returned to Earth and his descendants. But this guy also spent 15,000 years inside the sun and was drenched in its yellow radiation to become an even stronger version than he already was. He essentially became a god in his own right due to the fact that his exposure to the sun for thousands of years allowed him to increase his powers exponentially. Superman Prime became faster and stronger than any of his other versions, and his powers were increased to unthinkable levels. Alright y'all, that's all we got. I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerds. Stay safe and peace out, nerds.